I'm Spider-Editor Nick Lowe, and welcome to Forbidden Planet TV.
Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV. I'm Andrew Sumner, and I'm here with a very old friend of mine. It is none other than Marvel's Spider-Editor Nick Lowe. How are you, mate?
I'm doing great. Hey there, Andrew. Hey there, Forbidden Planet.
Yeah, right on, right here. Right here. And as you know, mate, we love the work, the sterling work that you've been doing over a long period of time on the Spider family of titles at Marvel. And as you know, I'm a long time Spider-Man fan. Read my first Spider-Man book in 1966. So it's always a pleasure to talk to you about all things Spider-Man. And I thought you could just give us some thoughts and give us an overview of how the second half of your 2022 is looking, Nick.
Well, I mean, 2022 is a huge year for us in all things Spider. This is the 60th anniversary of Spider-Man. Back on June 5th, 1962, Amazing Fantasy 15 changed the world. It gave us, like, Steve Ditko and Stan Lee got together, created the greatest fictional character of all time, Spider-Man. Better than anybody. And so we are trying to ring in this year with the greatest Spider content the world has ever seen. We've got our new volume of Amazing Spider-Man that has just kicked up at the end of April, and that is with Zeb Wells, John Romita Jr, Scott Hanna, and Marcio Menes.
A dream team, if ever there was one, mate.
A dream team. I mean, I put this team together very on purpose for the 60th anniversary. I wanted to, Andrew and I've talked before about this. I tried to put together the best Spider-Man book ever to be published. That is my goal, flat out. This is my every comic I try to make I try to make it my best comic. But this I went on a vision quest. I sat and I meditated for a lot of time. I thought, really spending some good time alone with my thoughts to put this team together. And I'm loving what they're doing. Our first arc centers around Spider-Man and Tombstone, while other things are brewing, leading the way for our big, Amazing Spider-Man 900, legacy number 900. This will be the second centennial issue of Amazing Spider-Man that I've published. I worked on 800 at the end of Dan Slott's run with Stuart Immonen and Umberto Ramos and Giuseppe Camuncoli. So this is my second shot at a centennial issue. And that one we brought in Ed McGuinness, who is doing the art. Oh my gosh. And for all those nerds like me and like you out there, one of the things we glommed onto that is going to be a big part of it is, I know I'm not going to be telling you anything you don't know, Andrew, but the Super Adaptoid has always been one of my favorite kind of, I think, underused concepts. I love it. And it hit me and Zeb and Ed. We were talking, and as soon as we mentioned it, Ed's head exploded with joy because it's one of his favorites as well. But what the adaptation that we've made to the Super Adaptoid is that he is now the Sinister Adaptoid, as he has the powers of the original Sinister Six: Mysterio, Kraven, Sandman, Vulture, Dr. Octopus. Who'd I leave out? I can't believe this. That's only 5. Kraven, Mysterio. Oh, and Electro. I left out Electro, of course. And so the Sinister Adaptoid. Now, who did this to the Super Adaptoid? Who did this? You're just gonna have to read to find that one out. It is something else buried in distant Spider-Man past that we've uncovered, and I couldn't be more excited. We got some other surprises up our sleeve in 900, and we've got some other stuff coming down the pike as well. Big Spider-Man 60th anniversary stories. So that's that book. We've also got, looking at my kind of spider spreadsheet, we're in a huge epic Miles Morales story right now, where Miles is back, journeying through the multiverse, trying to find his uncle. His uncle Aaron was kidnapped by Ultimatum. and in this big fight, they got thrust into the multiverse, and so Miles and his clone Shift are going to find him, and it's this awesome story that Saladin Ahmed, along with Christopher Allen, are doing over there. It's fantastic. What else? We've got. We're wrapping up Savage Spider-Man, which is part of this nonstop Spider-Man, Savage Spider-Man 1-2 punch. Joe Kelly's writing, Gerardo Sandoval is doing. It is maybe the craziest Spider-Man book I've ever done. If you haven't started reading it, because of the actions of Baron Zemo and this new villain group, the Immaculatum, Spider-Man has been turned into this huge, monstrous spider creature who thirsts for blood and is the tribal chief of a tribe of monsters, and kind of trying to face down this evil group called the Immaculatum. And so that's going on. We just announced a really cool new book called Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man that is co-written by a member of the Black Eyed Peas named Taboo, who's written a bunch of stuff for Marvel over the last few years with his collaborator B. Earl. And we got Juan Ferreyra on art there. If you don't know Juan Ferreyra, he just did, for those of you who have Marvel Unlimited, if you haven't checked out Spine-Tingling Spider-Man, you are missing out. That just finished up. Saladin Ahmed wrote that, and Juan Ferreyra did the art on it. And one of the key things that you can check out on Marvel.com is there is a Saladin wrote in a lyrics for a song, for this creepy lullaby-esque song into the story that I then set to music. And you can find it on Marvel.com. I mean, you don't know what I sound like singing, so you might think it's a different kind of horror. But I will say that I'd say check it out, but only if you're not prone to nightmares. Because I went ham on it. So, but check it out. It's so
we
cool.
will
Anyway.
attach the links to that to this YouTube conversation. That is brilliant.
Perfect.
That's
and I'm trying to think of what else that I can talk about. There's so many secrets that I can't talk about yet. We just finished another one of my career highlights for me, which is a couple volumes of Black Cat that gave that character.
Yeah, wonderful.
It's such a great book. It ended up between these two volumes running, I think it was 22 issues plus a couple of oversized annuals. Launching out of that, we have a mini series coming out called Iron Cat that is Jed McKay writing it, Pere Perez on the art, Frank Giamatti coloring, and it's fantastic. It is it brings Black Cat and Iron Man together. In the first series, Black Cat broke into Stark Industries, built her own armor, and led Iron Man in a kind of a wild goose chase while she stole stuff from him. And this Iron Cat armor is back, but Felicia is not the person wearing it. So it's up to Black Cat and Iron Man to find out who is wearing it, who stole it back, and what this person's plans are for the armor and how they could have possibly stolen this from Tony Stark. That's an awesome series. As far as Spider stuff, I think that's pretty much all I can talk about right now. And that's hard because there's so much I want to talk about more. So many cool things that I think are going to really interest Forbidden Planet buyers. But I also edit things other than spiders. Is it okay if I talk about that stuff too?
Yeah, please do, mate. Yeah, right. Please do. So, we sell all of it at Forbidden Planet, so we love it. So
I've been to your London store. It is amazing. I've been there.
Brother.
Absolutely. I've been there a couple times. And one of the times I was there, Steve Wacker, who was at the time where I was the X-Men editor and he was the Spider-Man editor, we were in London for Mark Miller's convention that he did.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah. And we went to Forbidden Planet after the convention and had a great time. I bought a bunch of 2000 AD stuff that I could never find here in the States. Some great Alan Moore stuff, some really classic stuff. Anyway, but I edit more than just Spider books. I'm the editor on She-Hulk, our new She-Hulk series right now.
Great time to be on that book as well, mate.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. That Disney Plus series is coming up. Super excited for that. But so on this book, we've got Rainbow Rowell is writing it. She is one of my favorite writers on the planet. She wrote this book called Eleanor and Park that I love.
Great book, yeah.
It's a great book. And it was actually my friend and former Marvel editor Mackenzie Caden had turned me on to that book. And in that book, the reason why I knew I had to get Rainbow writing comics is the characters trade issues of Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns on the school bus. And I was like, this person knows their comics. And sure enough, Rainbow knows them very well. And she wrote Runaways for me for a couple of years. And now she is writing She-Hulk for me. And it is phenomenal. We are just putting issue 4 to bed today, right when we finish this interview. And I'm so excited for readers to read it. Jack of Hearts is back in it. And there's a big mystery involving Jack of Hearts. Again, one of the more underutilized Marvel characters who everyone loves. Basically, as far as I can figure out why I love him, is mostly his look. He just has a great costume, looks amazing. And we're coming at it, trying to breathe new life into Jack of Hearts. And I'm super stoked about that. I also edit Strange Academy, which has been another passion project of mine ever since Scotty Young came up with the idea. Scotty Young and Humberto Ramos have finished 18 issues of the first volume. The 18th issue, it got caught up in this whole, even though we sent it to print over a month ago, it got caught up in this whole supply chain mess that we're kind of dealing with, I think, all over the world, but especially right here and in our hemispheres, with the ones concerning us the most right now. So it's not going to come out, I think, until July. But that ends the first volume. But we're coming back with more. I talk about it a little bit in that comic, but I love it. If you love teen drama in superhero comics, this is the book for you. It's so good. And then I also supervise editor Devin Lewis, who does the Venom books and the Venom.
That's some amazing stuff with Ram V and all those guys.
Ram V, Al Ewing, Bryan Hitch are making magic. I mean, it's hard to think that you could go crazier than the Donny Cates, Ryan Stegman run of Venom. And I think Ram and Al and Bryan were like, I'll take that as a challenge. They have gone completely bonkers on that book. And I love it. It's been so wild getting to look over Devin's shoulder at the art coming in from Bryan. I've worked with Bryan since, I think it was 2003 when I moved over to the Ultimate office, and I came in, I think it was Ultimates Volume 1, number 9. I helped see the printer and then get to work on it. And I don't even know, I mean, I bet they've talked about it, but Bryan is such a madman. Like, one of my favorite stories from working on the Ultimates was, if you remember, I think it's at the end of Ultimates 2, there's a big battle with the Chitauri, and Iron Man gets knocked way out of the battle, and he started to pick us up. This kid comes and helps talk him into getting up. And at one point, he's like, "Oh, thanks, kid." And he flies away, salutes the kid as he flies back into the battle. And that was where Mark's script of that scene ended. Bryan decided that was not enough. And he added these 2 soldiers who walking by, saw this process, and then pushed the kid into a ditch. And Bryan, that was, as I recall, that was all Bryan. And I was like, Bryan, what are you doing? But it was too funny. It's so great to be working with Bryan after all this time, because he is one of the greatest people to hold a pencil. No, absolutely no doubt, brother. And he was present at the, because you were reminding me of when we first met. Andrew was at Wizard World Texas in 2005. Bryan Hitch also at that convention, and I
remember. That's exactly right.
Yep, and we played a game of billiards, game of eight ball. It was Bryan, Steve McNiven, Dan DiDio, and my at the time my wife, before she was my wife, played pool. She didn't know any of those 3 other people were, and so she was trash talking them and with no problem. But it was just a wild weekend in comics. But anyway, but Venom, and they just and Ram just launched Carnage with Francesco Manna, and that book is
that's awesome. Great,
nuts. They have such huge plans for that Venom franchise. It's just unbelievable. And then the other thing that I'll tease that I've been working on for a few years that I think I was tweeting about not too long ago. I think eagle-eyed people will have noticed that the modern age of Miracleman turned 40 back in March. So this year is the 40th anniversary of the modern age of Miracleman, when Warrior magazine came out.
Yeah.
And that volume with the original writer and our I can't believe Gary Leach.
Yeah, right on.
Rest in peace. What a loss.
What an incredible loss. What an amazing loss.
Amazing loss.
Very,
amazing
very
artist.
nice man. Incredibly nice man. And just a towering talent. Hugely influential.
Hugely influential on so many people. But anyway, rest in peace, Gary. We are so blessed for the work that you did. And I'm not gonna lie, there could be some big things coming for Miracleman down the pike too.
Well, that for me, as an old school fan, I read Warrior #1 at high school in Liverpool when I was in the what they call the sixth form common room in a British high school, and awesome. I had read that first issue and was just absolutely elementally blown away. So for you guys, for whatever you guys have got planned, myself, the Forbidden Planet Massive, Forbidden Planet staff, we're all massively excited about that, mate.
That's awesome. But yeah, so we got the Spider-Man 60th, all this stuff. I mean, I know I'm very partial, but I don't know of a better time to be a comic fan in history. Maybe the early 60s. Maybe that's the one time where things were crazy. Yeah. But I think there are more incredible comic books coming out now than any time that I can remember, and just so glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I wanted to close out on, mate. I mean, you just mentioned when we first met, which, is amazing to think it's 17 years ago. But in that period of time, your career at Marvel has spanned the explosion of Marvel into the popular pop culture consciousness, not just the comic book fan consciousness, but now as a force in terms of entertainment globally that rivals any sport that you can think of. It's like it used to be sports used to way outweigh comic book culture. I remember sitting on trains where people were going to the Liverpool football match and I'd be reading my comics and people would be perplexed. Now Marvel Comics is the biggest thing on the planet. It must have been such an amazing ride to be the Spider editor when Into the Spider-Verse was released, when all these amazing recent Spider flicks, when No Way Home was released. What's that been like for you, mate?
It has been such an amazing time. I'm the luckiest guy in the world to be editing these Spider-Man books and getting to see this stuff unfold. And we got Across the Spider-Verse coming out later this year. That I'm not involved in, but I'm so excited about. But yeah, No Way Home blew me away. I was cackling in a almost deserted movie theater because I went as late as I possibly could at night, cackling like a madman at what's going on there. And I mean, it is such a different world from when I was a comic fan in Cleveland, Ohio. When I was first picking up books, and to now,
the birthplace of Superman, right, mate?
Indeed, yeah. And some of Brian Bendis is from there, Brian Azzarello, Brian Vaughn, all the Bryans except for Brian Hitch, all the Bryans within IAN are all from Cleveland. Anyway, but it's crazy, like you said, to see this this world pop culture taken over by Marvel and superheroes and all this kind of stuff. It's just wild when that was such a rarity when I was coming up and when you were coming up and all this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and finally, how did you feel in that moment in No Way Home where the mask comes off and it's Andrew Garfield?
Oh, it was just unbelievable. When he walks in there, and it's like, there were the rumors were swirling, and you're like, and when it happens, like it blows your mind. And again, I think you and I talked about this before about how it's one of those things that could either go so well or go so poorly. And, making a movie is very different than making a comic book. They're just like in making a comic book, there's so many ways it can go wrong. In a movie, there's 10 times or 100 times the ways that something could go wrong. The fact that the filmmakers were able to make a movie so good with so many moving parts. Like, I mean, the comic book world is littered with, like, you know, I used to edit the X-Men for a long time. And one of the things I learned and was taught relatively early on, but should have learned it better because I know I made this mistake a few times, is that you, like, it's easy to fall in love with a lot of characters and put a lot of characters on the board. But the second you put too many characters in there, no one gets any real time and you lose it. The fact that they were able to balance those villains and those heroes and the friends and the story, it was masterful. And like, and I just bow down to the excellence of what that was. But seeing Andrew Garfield, seeing Tobey Maguire, like, amazing. I mean, for me, I was even more thrilled to see Alfred Molina. Like, seeing Alfred Molina, like Spider-Man 2, that Raimi Spider-Man 2 is one of my favorite films ever. Certainly one of my favorite superhero films ever. Like, that one's hard to beat. That one, and X-Men 2. You know, like,
I agree, mate. I totally agree.
Like, and so, and this one, I think it holds hands with that, obviously, and with the direct overlap, but also it was such a fantastic movie, and it almost had no right to be as good as it was. Like, the amount of moving parts is unbelievable.
No, it was euphoria-inducingly good, right? I mean, I'm from the moment where where Charlie Cox turned up, I was like, man, did something really doing stuff with this film? Yeah, I just knew it, but it's the fact that I had these very high expectations and it obliterated them. It's super delivered.
Unbelievable. Like, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. They work so hard. I mean, I know how they do it. They work really, really hard. Like, it is, it's just amazing. It's just amazing.
Right on, brother. Nick, it is always great to see you, mate. And thank you for sharing your Spider plans, your other plans for 22. Come back and see us again. And mate, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks for hanging out with us.
You as well, Andrew. And thank you, everyone, at Forbidden Planet. Love you guys. Love your stores all over the world. You're fantastic, especially that main one in London there.
Take care, brother. I'll see you soon.
See you guys. See you, Andrew. Bye, everybody.
If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.